and welcome to Section 4 of the Golden Garrison series, Weekly Activities. Now, I say weekly, but really you can do them pretty much as often as you want. I just choose a time every week so I don't forget. And basically this is just cleanup after you do the other sections. Since over the week, when you're doing missions, you pick up a lot of stuff, and you generally just have to get rid of it in the most effective way possible. Now, first things first, I started in my town hall, and if you'll recall, doing dailies in the garrison mine, picking up the ore in the garrison mine and picking up the carts gives you archaeology fragments, and those can really add up if you're not careful. So I, every week, just get rid of the remaining archaeology things that I haven't completed yet. Now remember, you can only get these 3 in the garrison mine, so as you can see I've got 2 of them complete, and I'm just going to finish them now. Alright, I didn't get any pristine, but sometimes you'll get an advanced version of these, which you can complete a small quest for and get some extra rewards, but I didn't have any such luck this week. Instead, I'll crate them and use them for other archaeology projects later on. Alright, after the archaeology, there are primal spirits and Apexis crystals to take care of. Now, I store primal spirits, which I get pretty much everywhere at a very slow rate, in my bags. Sometimes I'll get over 1,000, in which case they spill over. And, in my opinion, the best way to spend primal spirits is to go to the vendor and just trade them straight for alchemical catalysts. And the vendor is here on the map just outside the tower. Sazzle's Sticky Fingers. He moves around depending on what size your garrison is, but once you reach level 3 he starts staying put. Or she, I guess. Now remember, most of these are either they don't sell particularly well or they're bind on pickup, so I just stick with alchemical catalysts. I have 640, that's enough for about 100, 150 catalysts. I'll just buy 100 to be sure. There we go. And Apexis crystals. Now you get Apexis crystals from garrison missions and naval missions and picking up resources all over the place. It's pretty the same as primal spirits. But getting rid of Apexis crystals can be a little bit more complicated. There are no easy ways to vendor them. Once you've bought the various things that you can, like follower contracts and pets and mounts, the only way you can really get rid of Apexis crystals in a profitable way is to go to Tanaan Jungle and sell them off. So I take the portal to Ashran, to Warspear actually, and Warspear itself has a portal that leads to Tanaan Jungle. As usual, my computer is taking its sweet time, but that's what you get. Now remember, you won't have access to Tanaan Jungle, not after the intro storyline, unless you complete the shipyard. It's integrated into the same quest line. So even if you don't do naval missions, you can just do the intro, get access to Tanaan, and then wash your hands of it and not think of it again. Tanaan Jungle has a lot of various upgrades for your garrison and your followers, especially your shipyard. But I like it more because of the sheer number of interesting things you can find. Vignettes, I think they're called. Various toys that you can find on the ground, sometimes equipment upgrades, pets and mounts, various sizes. Now, when you take the portal, you always arrive out here, but there is an innkeeper inside, so you can set your home here if that makes it more sense for you. So, the only place that you can spend Apexis crystals for gold is right here, with Ravenspeaker Thelnas of the Order of the Awakened. So you talk to him, and he sells all of these baleful trinkets, baleful equipment for 5 to 10,000 Apexis crystals each. And usually I just buy the one that's most obvious, or the one that helps me the most based on my equipment. And that's that. As you can see, I don't have enough Apexis crystals to buy another one. Now earlier I mentioned an upgrade to the Garrison Cache that allows you to double how many resources you get from it, or how many resources you can store in it anyway. And you buy that from Shadowhunter Vajal here. The Arakoa Outcast need revered reputation, which actually you'll get automatically just by doing missions, because there are items that drop that allow you to get Arakoa Outcast reputation. But you can also get really cool cooldown items, the battle standard. You can get ship upgrades, and you can get several contracts, as well as several toys here. But that's all pretty much just affectations, really. If you're after gold, then all you really need to do is go to your garrison and spend go to the vendor out there, spend Apexis crystals, and then bring the results back to your garrison. Now, ordinarily, I would go straight to the Enchanter's Hut and disenchant that for Dranic Dust. And I could either sell that Dranic Dust on the auction house, or use it in a work order, as I said earlier, and then sell the crystals that you get from that on the auction house. But since I'm an enchanter, I don't need to use the Enchanter's Study out there. I can just disenchant it myself. Now, over the course of a week, you're going to stack up, depending on how many missions you've got going, generally between 40 and 60 boxes of salvage. Now, I'm doing this a little bit early, so I only have 29. But salvaging is a pretty good way to make gold quickly, especially if you have the right add-ons and a good macro. Now, basically, if ever you do a mission and you have a salvage yard in operation, you have a chance of picking up salvage from it. If that mission has followers who aren't max level, you'll get a bag of salvaged good. And those generally just result in vendor trash. If you have all of the followers at maximum level, maximum quality as well, all purple quality, then you get boxes, or big crates of salvage. Either way, it's all good. You can pretty much sell everything you get from them. So here goes. Lumbo the Crusher buys everything. I have sold her many things over the last year and a half. And here I will do it again. Now, the best way is just to be next to this central object here and right click on the salvage. And again, and again. As you can see, it can get pretty old pretty fast. So, instead, I use an add-on called Sell-O-Matic, which, as you can see, automatically vendors any gray stuff I pick up. And I've altered it so that it also sells green stuff that I pick up, because frankly, disenchanting it and selling the dust on the auction house, or selling the greens on the auction house, is way too much effort. And remember, we're doing this series because we're lazy and want as much gold as possible for as little effort as possible. So, I just use the add-on to make that process simpler. I also use a macro. I just named it salvage. Yeah, I know, original. And the macros are pretty simple. You do /M to open the macro window. As you can see, I have a few of them. And the macro itself is pretty simple. This is all extras. You don't really need any of that. All you need is these two lines. /use bag of salvaged goods. That'll automatically get rid of these. And /use big crate of salvage. And that'll automatically get rid of those. So I just press this button to salvage. And again, repeat, it wears on. And whenever I start running out of space, I just press this button and Sell-O-Matic removes all of the trash and frees up some space. Now, I use an auto-click program which presses this button every 2 seconds or so, but you don't have to. You can just click away if you want. The auto-click program is very simple. I downloaded it for free on the internet. Now, here's where salvaging starts getting interesting. Once you get rid of the bags and start getting into the crates, you start generating green and blue and purple items, as well as follower armor enhancements and weapon enhancements. In addition, you also get trade materials, which is pretty cool. If you'll recall, I ran out of Dranic Dust not too long ago. So, I have Cellomatic set up so it will automatically get rid of all of the bind on equip items, including this scroll cleaver. The only reason I would consider holding on to a purple item like this is if it looked cool and I could sell it for transmog purposes, but as you can see it's not exactly beautiful, so I'm just going to vendor it. And it did not sell this one. It didn't sell this one because it's soulbound. And whenever you salvage, or whenever you do large crates of salvage, you will end up with item level 610 soulbound equipment specific to your class. And it does look pretty cool usually. I mean, that's not bad. But I keep these around because they're really cheap, as you can see, 448. They disenchant for a lot of resources. So generally speaking, I get more bang for my buck by disenchanting them instead of vendoring them. The same is true for baleful tokens, which is why I held on to this hat for disenchanting. So I will continue disenchanting, or for salvaging, until I inevitably run out of crates and bags. As you can see, I got another soulbound. I'm running low on space, so I'll just vendor that. And the rest is pretty straightforward. I mean, you can see where this is going from here. Now, I use my own disenchanting, although ordinarily on another character, I would go over here and use the essence font to disenchant this stuff. 8. So, as you can see, this costs 448, and I'm getting 9 Dranic Dust for it, so that's almost 2 for 1, where Dranic Dust usually sells for a lot more than that. It's almost always worth it to disenchant these 610 bind on pickup items and any baleful tokens you get, rather than just vendoring them. But for all of the other items, just vendor them. They're not worth the trouble. And finally, over the week, you generate a lot of garrison resources, especially if you have a large number of salvagers available. I've got about half my total maximum here. Now, you can spend garrison resources on all sorts of stuff, but I suppose ultimately depends on what you want to spend it on. Now, we're after gold, obviously, so we go to the trade post, we talk to this vendor. Now, who this vendor is changes on a day-to-day basis, but it doesn't matter because they always have at least this in common. Every one of them sells a smuggled stack of gold for 50 garrison resources. The prices change for these, but they don't change for this, thankfully. So, if you want to get rid of garrison resources and your followers are in a position that you don't need to change them anymore, buy a smuggled stack of gold, and then open it for about 15 gold, usually speaking. That's not a bad exchange rate, although I assume that in Legion, when garrison missions are changed significantly, we're going to be relying a lot more on smuggled stacks of gold to get our resources. However, my followers are not optimally set up yet, so I use my excess resources to reroll them. Now, let's take a look at my follower list. Most of them are on missions or working right now, but some of them probably don't have exactly what I want. And if I find someone who has, say, Grease Monkey when I don't want Grease Monkey, or an inappropriate setup with regards to, say, they have Epic Mount, which increases how fast they get missions done, and High Stamina, which means that they get higher rewards. They get a better chance of success with the mission the longer the mission is. Those two don't work together. In fact, they cancel each other out. So I can re-roll that using items I get from Grimjaw here. He sells trait rerolls and ability rerolls for 1,000 garrison resources apiece. It's kind of steep, and if you want an optimal setting of followers, you're probably going to want to make use of this eventually. But if you have the followers that you want, just go to the trade post and buy gold. Or if you really feel like taking a risk, sometimes the trade post vendor will have Dranic Dust at 4 garrison resources apiece. Not today. Crixel sells them at 8 apiece. But if you get Pixney, Crixel's colleague, I guess, she sells them at 4 apiece, and then you can put them up on the auction house. A lot of dust up in the auction house. Anyway, that's about that. If you're curious about the add-on I used, Cellomatic 2, I explain how to download the add-ons I use in the final section, the bonus options at the very end. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next section.